Let's head to the Chief Forecaster at Infometrics, Gareth Kiernan, who joins us now. We're going to talk about the Reserve Bank and the state of the economy. Gareth, g'day. Good morning. Nice to have you along.
Good morning, Duncan. How are you?
Really well, thanks. The as the economy, the state of the economy is deemed by the Reserve Bank. So just quickly, the OCR cut by 50 basis points. That was expected. There's nothing really to see there apart from the fact they've done what they said they're going to do, right?
Yeah, that's right, and it's a welcome relief, I think, after a few surprises over the previous few meetings here, matching market expectations, matching what they'd said previously, and probably the biggest surprise. Well, not surprised, but they've moved their forecast track in terms of the OCR going forward, also lining up effectively with what the market is expecting over the next few months as well.
Yeah, the general state of the economy as well, because they'll be looking at that. Of course, that's the big thing they look at, isn't it? Inflation and where it's all tracking. But are we in a strong position? Are we in a position where we can say, okay, it's all moving forward from here, or is it still there's a bit of doubt?
Look, for me, I think the economy is just starting to turn around into a position of recovery. We're seeing the early effects of previous rate cuts coming through, although there's still a lot more of that to come through, of course, over the next 12 months. Those interest rates don't impact immediately on people getting out and spending or on the labour market and jobs growth and that sort of thing. But just some of the indicators we have been seeing recently have been improving. There's also concerns, I think, when you look forward over the next 9 to 12 months, that there is a bit more inflation coming through in the system. That's not necessarily the Reserve Bank's making, but there has been just sort of international events and lower exchange rate, all that sort of stuff coming through. And we're looking at those numbers and going, oh, there's nothing really massively worrying here yet, but it's certainly something that we need to be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, it's an evil thing, inflation, as we've all found out the last few years, isn't it? It robs you of income. It robs you of your position. It's the thief in the night, isn't it?
It is. We'd forgotten about it for 30 years because we'd enjoyed inflation running along at 2% per annum pretty consistently during that time. But as soon as your incomes are not keeping up with that, and those price rises of 7% on average across the economy, it does start to hurt pretty quickly. I mean, look, the inflation pressures we're seeing at the moment in terms of that lower exchange rate or the higher fuel prices coming through, they're not massive. We're not talking another bounce back up to 7%. I mean, the Reserve Bank's forecast they published yesterday showed inflation later this year at, I think, getting up to 2.7%. So still within the target band. But like I say, just a few things to keep an eye on.
Could he have gone 0.75? Could he have gone the whole hog and given it an extra bit of a bit of action and seen more recovery, more activity quicker in the New Zealand economy? I mean, I understand why he needs to be a bit conservative because of that inflationary pressure, but did it not call for a bit of an injection, Gareth?
Yeah, it's an interesting debate. If you kind of view that, look, interest rates need to keep going down over the next, say, 6 months, and you're reasonably clear on that, then there is always a bit of a question of why you don't go by more now to get there quicker. I think it's probably prudent at this stage to be going at the 50s and then maybe 25 in future ones on the basis that, look, your economic forecasts are always uncertain. And gosh, economists know that more than anyone. People give them a whole lot of crap for never being able to agree on anything. And that just does reflect a lot of that uncertainty out there. So I think taking a slightly more steady as she goes approach is probably best, particularly, when I talk about some of those upside pressures and go, well, how much more do you need to not necessarily stimulate the economy, but just start, you're putting money back in people's pockets and, they will start spending it later this year and into 2026. You don't want to be sort of doing it too much now and then going, oh, crap, we overdid it and now we've got to raise the interest rates again next year to sort of get things back under control.
And we've seen what that looks like. We've certainly seen that. So when does the largest cohort of Kiwis come off those fixed mortgages? Because this really only has an impact when you start seeing those people start to refix at lower rates so they've got more cash in their pockets so they can, if they wish, spend it, save it, whatever. But when is the big chunk of people coming off those fixed rates, do you know?
Yeah, if you look at the proportion of lending that's coming off those fixed rates over the next 3 to 6 months, it is higher than normal. And certainly what we saw through the second half of last year is that there was an increasing proportion of people going on much shorter fixed terms, particularly the 6-month rate through around about August, September was very popular with people because they were going, we can see rate cuts are coming. We don't want to keep it on floating because that's much higher, obviously. But the 6-month looks like a good option on the basis then we can get the lower fixed rate coming through in the first half of 2026. So yeah, much higher than normal proportion of people rolling off over the next few months. So it does mean, and this is good for the economy, it does mean that the bank's cuts probably will impact a bit more quickly and a bit more sizably on the way down than the rate rises did on the way up when everybody had fixed for 2 years or 3 years or in some cases 5 years, and it takes a long time for that to impact
Yeah, see, that's
through.
interesting,
And
isn't it? That's,
I think we saw the
yeah. I find it interesting because I find it interesting. I find it interesting because that's like cash injection. This is more effective than a tax cut. Tax cuts can take so long to legislate and get into your pocket. This stuff's immediate. As soon as these people come off these rates, within a week, you've got released income again, more disposable income.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I think in the near term there is a bit of caution from people about the labour market and unemployment still rising. I think there's sort of issues around job security, but yeah, the sort of amount of money we're talking as well is much, much larger than last year's tax cuts. We saw the tax cuts have a bit of an impact on spending. We've seen spending start to sort of drift up over the last 6 months, but yeah, this is sort of in another ballpark completely.
What sort of numbers are we talking about? How many billions of dollars could be released into people's pockets as a result of an average cut? Have you done any work on that?
Yeah, we have. By the end of this year, we're expecting it to be about $45 million more a week across all households in their pockets.